Hey friends, welcome back. I am Jason, and what I thought I would do is discuss with you some of the lessons learned, some of my thoughts that are still fresh in my mind after returning from a relief effort in North Carolina that was hit pretty hard by Hurricane Helene. So this is just kind of off the cuff and things that are on my mind, what maybe I've learned, and the takeaways perhaps. And maybe I can fill you in a little bit of the things that I've seen and maybe alleviate some of the rumors that might be going around, at least from my point of view. So I was up there for basically 3 separate trips. I'd go up there for a couple days, and then I'd come home, kind of regroup, refuel, because I didn't want to be pulling from supplies of the area. I wanted to make sure that I was self-sufficient as much as possible. So I'd fill up my truck with supplies and fuel and all the things that I think I would need in order to be part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem. And then I would head up for a couple days, 2 or 3 days, and just where there were problems, I'd try to help solve them. And I worked closely with the nonprofit that I was part of starting, the U.S. Men's Academy. I've had a small part in starting that nonprofit, and those guys did an amazing job of helping the people that were there. And we were in several different places. Primarily, I was in Black Mountain, Burnsville, and a small little community called Buladine. And these were all in, the outskirts, the surrounding area of like the Asheville type area. So I was probably an hour or so from Asheville in most of these places, give or take 30 minutes to an hour or so from the Asheville area. And I saw major destruction anywhere in the river bottoms, hollers, valleys, any place that had a stream like the one that I'm sitting next to right now that was in this area was hit really hard with a wall of fast flowing water. And within that water, it wasn't just the water, it was trees, massive, huge trees, trucks, giant boulders, huge boulders the size of trucks were displaced by this fast flowing massive wall of water and this immense destructive force. Roads completely gone, homes erased, no sign of them. It's really difficult to tell what some of these valleys looked like before. I mean, on the way home, driving home from these places, I was able to kind of look around a little bit at the roads that weren't hit. On my way, we're only 2 hours away from these places, give or take 2 to 3 hours away. And I was able to look at the roads where we are and think, oh wow, that's probably what it used to look like in these destruction zones. These places that are just wiped out, annihilated. But anyway, getting back, lessons learned. What did I learn? I learned that local communities are the key. They're absolutely the key. They are going to be the first responders. They are going to be the voluntary or volunteer fire departments. They are going to be your neighbors, your brothers, your sisters, your churches, your local communities. Those are going to be the first responders to these situations. These local crews, they're all volunteers. Almost all of the immediate problems were solved by volunteer-based local people with the tools, the know-how, the will to solve problems. Roads were repaired. I mean, not repaired permanently, but temporarily repaired. Paths were made through these destruction zones. In some places, the roads were completely gone, like I mentioned before. And paths were made, drivable paths for emergency units to get in and out by just local crews, bulldozers and tractors and backhoes and all that stuff. The churches pulled together really, really quickly to house supplies and people. The area was flooded, absolutely flooded with volunteers that were ready, eager, willing to help. Side-by-sides, four-wheelers, chainsaws were everywhere. People brought supplies from far and wide, trucks of supplies, food and bottled water. Mountains of bottled water were delivered to the areas that I was in. It's crazy how much bottled water there was. Anyway, so yeah, the local local people were the first responders. They were the ones that were there to help the people in the immediate emergency situations that presented themselves because of this storm. It was really comforting. It was really what's the word? I don't know what the word is, but I felt good about it. I felt good about it. There's a lot of good people in this world. You know, if you stay on social media, if you live your life on social media, you think that everyone hates everyone and FEMA's out to get you, and everything is bad and wrong in the world. But if you actually get out and start talking to people and experience these things for yourselves, you'll realize that, at least in my experience, in these places that I've been, where absolute destruction and disaster was there, a lot of people lost their lives. In the places I've been, people are good. People wanted to be there to help. So eager to help. And that was really encouraging. So currently, at the moment, in these places that I've been, I mentioned the 3 towns that I was primarily in, they are absolutely flooded with supplies, bottled waters and foods and blankets and all the things. And there was a huge influx of volunteers, so many that it became a problem in and of itself. Think about it. You know, this tiny town that's used to having 1,000 people, let's say, in it, the infrastructure can only support that 1,000 people as of now. And when you get this influx of an additional 1,000 people or more, you overwhelm the infrastructure. And if the power's out, the plumbing is out, the city water isn't flowing, the wells are not pumping, you're not being able to flush toilets, a huge influx of volunteers can become a problem in and of itself. So that was a lesson learned. Heading into these places and being as self-reliant as possible is going to be crucial if you want to volunteer to do something like this. Make sure that you can provide for yourself and take care of yourself and not expect the community to do the things for you. Let's see, what else lessons learned? Yeah, I mean, community, that's the biggest one. Your local community is the thing. Be friends with the people around you. Become friends and help the people around you as much as possible, because those are the people that you're going to be reliant upon in a disaster situation such as this, if you're lucky enough to survive it. Build your community now. Work on disaster plans, because what happened was, you know, this disaster hit. I mean, if you live in North Carolina or North Georgia where I live, you don't worry about hurricanes. It's not something that's really on your radar. You know, when a hurricane hits, you know, Florida or whatever, you know, they're expecting it. They expect to get damage from hurricanes, but you don't expect that where we live. And so they were caught pretty much off guard, and you know, emergency warnings went out, but a lot of people didn't receive them and didn't receive them in time. It was too late. The flooding was already there. It was on them. They couldn't get out. They couldn't escape. Heading to high ground was a disaster in and of itself, because the winds were crazy. I mean, I saw whole hillsides, entire hillsides that were just, it looked like they'd just been clear cut. They'd just been mowed down. These massive, big trees were just broken in half, snapped in half, because the wind gusts were over 100 miles an hour in some of these hilltops, way over 100 miles an hour. And this storm just sat on top of them for like a few days. For like 3 days, it poured down rain. People that I spoke to that were in this storm, they said, yeah, it started pouring down rain and it did not stop for 3 days. So yeah, heading to high ground, getting away from the flood. Like if this creek that I'm sitting here, this nice, gentle, rolling stream here, this babbling brook that you're hearing right now in the background, if that was to happen here, if that same amount of volume of water was to fall on my area, we dodged it just by 100 miles. That's it. If it was to fall here, the same thing would have happened here. The water would have rose really fast. It would have flooded my entire field. It would have hit my house. Hopefully I would have just had some flood damage and I wouldn't have had my house completely wiped off the face of the earth like a lot of people experience. My barn probably would have been gone or just heavily damaged. And there's only so much you can prepare for things like that. And I'm sorry guys if my thoughts are a bit scattered and bouncing around. I'm just fresh off my last trip up there. Just got home last night. And these are just the things that are rolling through my mind, but it could very easily happen happen here. And there's only so much you can do to prepare for it. You can have all the beans and all the bullets. You can do all of the things. You can have the generators and the supplies and the bunker. But if the force of nature like that comes through your valley, there ain't a whole lot you can do other than just survive and then attempt to rebuild, pick up the pieces afterwards. Crazy. Yeah. Rely on the people around you. Love the people around you. Do as much as you can for them. If they call you and they need you for something, be there. And it's not I scratch your back, you scratch mine type of situation. It's what you should do. It's the way we should live our lives. It's how we should treat each other with love and kindness and compassion, and no greed, no ego. Just be there to help people because that's the right thing to do. Man, I don't know. Other lessons learned. Things that I experienced, perhaps. There was some looting and stuff like that happened. Not major events, like nothing like that where I was. I was in small communities for the most part, small towns. I wasn't in downtown Asheville or anything like that. They got hit pretty hard too. The river valley where it flowed through Asheville was wiped out. But yeah, we had some theft, basic theft stuff going on, basically like the community centers that we were in, the churches and stuff that had supplies stored, they'd work all day long, taking these supplies in, organizing them to the best of their ability and dispersing them out to the best of their ability where they were needed. But, at the end of the day, they kind of shut down shop, and people would come in and take gas and steal fuel and stuff like that. The stealing, maybe they were just taking it because they needed it and they showed up after hours. I don't know. Or they're being greedy and hoarding stuff for themselves, or certain situations. Like I had a guy, I visited this small little trailer community, this trailer park that was off the highway near Burnsville, and I'm telling you what, man, this was these people have a rough existence. It was bad. It was bad before the storm, and honestly, and I'm not exaggerating this, and I hope I'm not sounding insensitive or anything like this, but honestly, I feel like these people's lives probably improved to a certain degree because of the storm, because of the influx of supplies that they were able to access for free. I feel like their lives may have improved to some degree, and I think that says a lot about some of the people that live out. These people are out there, and you don't know they're there. These people are struggling to survive, and just in general, and it's pretty sad. A car met us as we were leaving. They were coming into the community, and we were kind of asking them, if they needed supplies or needed help in any way, shape, or form, if their house was damaged or whatever. And they basically asked for some batteries. They asked for some junk food, basically. That's what they asked for. And they asked for diapers for a young girl that was probably 10, because she was autistic to some degree. And the older gentleman sitting in the passenger seat was also mentally disabled to some degree, to a large degree, actually. He couldn't speak very clearly. It's just sad. And the neighbor next door to them was trying to get us to deliver them sinus medicine, allergy medications, and that's the drug addicts and meth addicts and all that in the area is pretty bad. He wanted a generator. You don't want to judge people. You don't want to judge books by their cover, obviously. But if I had access, I could have gotten him a generator. I could have delivered that generator to him. But would that have been the best outlet for the resources, for that resource? Would he have just sold the thing to get his next hit? And he was clearly a drug addict, and it's super sad. And these people are people. I mean, man, people have problems. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. Everybody has their struggles and their weaknesses. And people make poor choices sometimes. I make poor choices sometimes, and those choices that we make can have a huge, tremendous effect on the rest of our lives. And man, thankfully, thankfully, this was a regional disaster. It was fairly localized, and even in these areas that we were in, if you weren't near water, weren't near a creek, river, for the most part, other than tree damage and some wind damage, maybe some shingles or a piece of metal blew off your roof or something like that, you were fine. There were people mowing their lawns in these areas. I mean, there were people that were just carrying on life as normal in these areas. You know, obviously power might have been out and, you know, that kind of thing, but they weren't immediately affected by this disaster because they weren't in this small funnel of nature's wrath that flowed through the area, which was weird. It was a weird, you know, polar opposite kind of dynamic thing that was going on in this area. I mean, you have utter destruction, annihilation, and then somebody, you know, pruning their bushes and mowing their grass and just, you know, sweeping up the patio from a little bit of wind and leaves that got blown up on it. Weird. But like I was saying, it's a regional, local disaster. And there were supplies and generators and people flooding the area because it was a localized regional disaster, and the areas outside of this of here were not affected, and they could easily get the fuel and all the things and go to the Home Depot and pick up the lumber and whatever to go fix the thing. Think about this on a massive scale, on a much larger scale. Let's say you know, entire eastern seaboard, the whole East Coast was affected by something like this. Imagine that. Imagine the entire continent of North America affected by something like this. It'd be so bad. It'd be bad. It'd be death and destruction everywhere on a scale like that, with no supplies, no help coming. You would be 100% reliant upon your neighbors, on your little community that you've built. Man, crazy world we live in. I'm thankful for the people in my life. I'm thankful for my family. I'm extremely grateful that we weren't hit by this storm. And it could have easily pushed 100 miles to the west and hit us. I'm extremely grateful for the things that I have, and I almost feel guilty to some degree for the things that I have, and I struggled with posting videos about it. I struggled internally about that, and not wanting to. I don't want to profit in any way from what happened to these people. I wanted to present what I have seen with my own eyes and tell the truth and possibly raise money, which we've done. We were able to do. We raised a lot of money and bring in a lot of supplies and a lot of assistance, specialized assistance, you know, that was needed and necessary to help these people. And I mean, I still have mixed emotions about, you know, showing the footage of the destruction, like these houses that were. I mean, we saw a home that all that was left was the chimney, and I mean, that's it. I mean, it was like a rock chimney, and that's all that was left of this man's home. And we found out he died. No one heard from him. Talked to the woman that related to him. I forget it might have been her grandpa or something like that, grandfather, and no one heard from him after the storm, and his house was gone. it's tough. The people were stressed. We were in contact with a lot of people. Arguments and frustration and crying and yelling at each other, and that kind of stuff is to be expected because they're stressed and they're overworked. And these volunteers they potentially lost people themselves. They've had potentially damage to their own homes, and they were still volunteering, still helping. You just got to be patient and calm, and just understand. One woman in particular got frustrated with us. We were trying to help. We were trying to deliver a generator to somebody, and she wasn't having it. She didn't trust us. She was stressed and frustrated, and probably sad and tired, and so it's understandable. But anyway, I probably rambled on enough, guys. I'll give more updates and stuff as they come. A lot of the content didn't go to Survival Dispatch. It went to my personal channel on 3, because it was just chaotic, and it was just easier to upload it to one place and not do it to both. So that's what we did, and we had very spotty service. That's another thing that we learned before I move on. The communications was a big fiasco. We had radios. We had cell phones, obviously, but the cell phones did not work most of the time because the cell phone towers were down. So having alternative forms of communications, we picked up Starlinks. We were able to connect with people that could give us Starlinks, and we purchased a bunch of Starlinks as well. The Men's Academy, U.S. Men's Academy, purchased a bunch of Starlinks that we could hand out and just donate to the cause, so people could have emergency communications when nothing else worked other than face-to-face talking to one another. So yeah, that was a struggle, but anyway, I've rambled on enough, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thumbs up, subscribe, share this video with anyone and everyone. Doesn't matter who you share it with. It's always appreciated, and it helps the video go further and farther and reach more people, and can potentially do a lot to help people in that area. I'll try to put links and stuff. I'll try to send all the links into Survival Dispatch so we can make sure we get links so you know how to help, where your resources, where your volunteer efforts might be the most effective. I'll try to get all that stuff turned in, and that's it. See you on the next one.